Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today I'm going to be taking you through 7 things you have to be doing if you're training in martial arts and you want to keep sparring partners, training partners around you. Hygiene things that are absolutely necessary. It's pretty simple. If we do not exercise proper hygiene in the sports world, we can end up with things like staph, ringworm, cutting our opponents. The list just goes on and off. All the reasons where you really have to take this seriously and you really have to be on top of all these hygiene etiquette points, which I'm going to take you through today. And the first thing I want to talk with you about is keeping those fingernails and those toenails trimmed. This is for your sparring partners, training partners, and for yourself. If your fingernails get too long, at some point you're going to catch them in some odd way and it might snap or fold back. But in addition, you can also scratch up your opponents. I've had a number of times where I've ended up with slices, like full-on slice from a toenail gouging through or around my neck when we're clenching and people are clawing away at you. This is absolutely unnecessary. You should be trimming your toenails, your fingernails. For me, I'm probably doing it every 10 days because they grow like weeds, but also I want them ultra short so I don't hurt anybody I'm working with. The next thing which you have to be on point for is keeping any open wounds, any cuts, anything you might have, keep it covered. So even just like we were talking about a moment ago, if somebody slices me with their toenail and I have this little open wound, I need to make sure it's covered up, either with material, just some clothing, or some sort of patch if it's somewhere else where you're not going to have a piece of clothing, maybe on your neck. Make sure all that is covered up because it's going to keep you safe, and then you don't have to worry about bleeding on other people if that gets opened. The next thing which you should be on point with, and it's probably much more difficult if you live in an apartment building where you don't have access to a washer and dryer in your actual apartment, but it's still so important. You got to wash your clothes after every single training session. When you don't wash them, you keep them in a little pile, you're gonna have more chance of ringworm getting on your body. But in addition, at some point, you're gonna be like, oh, I don't have any extra clothes. You're gonna grab those ones which you trained in previously, and it's gonna smell terrible. Nobody will want to move with you. If you have no other option when you come back from training, you're like, I don't have access to that washer or dryer, at least throw your clothes in the sink and let them sit there in really hot water for a while, wring them out, put them through another little cycle where you do the same thing, and at least get all that sweat off the material. That's something which you can do, which will save you a lot of stress in having to go to the gym smelling awful. Next point, in terms of, again, smell, is make sure you wear some deodorant. It's okay that we're gonna be sweaty at the gym. It does happen all the time. It's just nicer if you have some deodorant on, because then the training partners around you are not shying away, trying to avoid you. So just do everybody a favor and slap some of that on before you're training. For myself, with deodorant, I know there are a lot of chemicals in the mediocre sort of brands. So what I try to do is only get really clean stuff with very clean ingredients, because in the past I didn't want to use it because I knew about all the chemicals. The next thing which you can do, which everybody will appreciate and should be so much more on point after the last few years, is only train when you're healthy. If you're really on the edge, you're coughing, you're sick, you got a runny nose, you go into the gym, you know you're gonna be passing that on to other people. Nobody appreciates it. Plus, in my experience, you're gonna make those symptoms linger around longer. Take a little day of rest, avoid the gym, recover, and then hopefully the next day you're back there ready and raring to go. Now, the next thing I wanna talk about is fresh breath, because very often we are like, whew, right there. If we're clenching, we're right beside somebody. If we're rolling in jiu-jitsu, we're right beside somebody. Even if I'm sparring with somebody, there's still times where I'm gonna get right in their face, and having that fresh, minty breath, if you go for mint mouthwash, I guess, is so much nicer than having somebody who maybe didn't get to eat all day, breath is kind of stale. It's no good. So brush your teeth, throw some mouthwash in. Everybody appreciates that. And the last thing I want to talk with you about is airing out your gear, especially the gloves. The gloves take a lot of sweat. They're absorbing in there every time you have them on. It doesn't take too long for gloves to really start to stink if you just leave them in your bag. So if you can, as soon as you get home, start airing them out. Here's a little tip. If you don't have anything to soak up that sweat, just take some paper. Could be like a newspaper. Just clump up some newspaper, stuff it in there, just let it sit for a couple hours and then pull it out, throw that in the recycling. And now the moisture in your gloves is not going to be sitting there. And that's one of the reasons that they end up smelling so bad. So if you can air them out, dry them out, they're going to last you so much longer in terms of smell. I've had some gloves which I've had going now for a good 3 or 4 years because the padding in the knuckles is so spectacular, and I try to be on point with getting them home and cleaning them up because I know I don't want these gloves to die. But the couple times which I haven't done this with gloves, it can take 2 months and they smell so bad. And I'm like, shoot, I have to retire these gloves simply because the smell is just permeating out of them at this point and there's no salvation. So do yourself a favor, do everybody else around you a favor in your gym, and just take these 7 points which I listed out for you today very seriously. Everybody's gonna like it and you're gonna be much more popular at your gym because of it. If you guys appreciate these tips, please give the video a like. If you haven't already, join the channel, get subscribed. As always, train hard. I will see you back here soon for another episode.